Good evening, this is John Dixon. I'm recording this PowerPoint on the next day after the talk given at the Methodist Church on the 17th of February by Simon Lawton, which has also been recorded and will be available for you. This is the first time I've ever done a recording, so we will see what will happen. And we do welcome Simon to begin with, who is our speaker, and Simon's been the curator of the John Moore Museum since 1993, and it's about time he came to talk to us on this very important topic from the town's history. We welcome, of course, first of all guests who have come tonight, who haven't been members before. They are very welcome to join at a very small price of £5 per year. We're very thrilled, of course, to see members who have been able to make it. We have a storm warning, Eunice, which has put some people off. The parking might be affected. So well done to those who have attended. We just want to let you know that some of our older members, we have news. Anne Wicken, who's now over 90, has moved to Bradford to live near her daughter. Cliff lives in Ashchurch View, but that visiting is restricted because of COVID. And I have visited Derek Round at Magnolia House despite COVID. So it was nice to be able to visit him at long last. We have some sad news to impart because one of our former chairman, Christine Donald, died on Christmas Eve, and Sam Edler and I were honoured to be able to attend her funeral at the crematorium last week. And Sam has written an obituary which is now posted on our website, which you're very welcome to read. And we learned so much about Chris, which perhaps we didn't know before. The sad thing about this photograph, of course, is everybody on the back row, except for me, is no longer with us, which is very sad. But fortunately, those on the front row are still with us, with Wendy Snary, Pauline Shaw, and Wendy Spence, who I haven't seen for some time. So thanks, Chris, for all your work, and you can now read about her life on the website. The most important news at the moment is that we have published Bulletin 31 with that splendid photograph by Rick Talbot, who is very much appreciated for the work he's done for this bulletin and bulletins 29 and 30, which are available tonight. He is very much, he sets the design, and I think it's wonderful. Dr. Andrew Crowther is our dreaded proofreader and done a splendid job, and Packwoods have won the contract to be our printer, and we're very grateful to them because he did point out that inflation would take hold this year, which it has done, but he agreed to buy the paper in advance and charge us at those rates, so we can now offer you this bulletin at £8, which is a very good price. Sam told us a bit about the contents of the bulletin, so very quickly we have an article set in Ashchurch, set on the railway in the 19th century. It's all about a baby who was abandoned on the station, and the author, Ray Coggin, who's a new member to us, and who also gave a talk at our social evening. He's followed the family history of this very interesting story. Margaret Hicks is not well known to us. There's that rather formidable picture of her in the council chamber of the town hall. And Christine Warwick contacted us to ask how much we knew about her, which was very little, but Christine Warwick has now researched her life, and we're very lucky that Wendy Snary joined me in putting what Christine learnt from abroad, if you like, from the local context. And she's, as it says there, once the abbey was dissolved, who was to be responsible for the financial support of the poor? Well, she was one of the first of these philanthropists, and she was female, which is particularly interesting. There are new perspectives on history we're able to show. We're very pleased to welcome Paul Amphlett, who has returned to the town after being educated here, and he's a very good artist, and he's been doing on Facebook some very interesting presentations which we've followed up here for your benefit. It's to show you how the High Street has changed since 1958 and in 1958. So we're sure you'll enjoy that. Also on Facebook, Marie Freeman, who has been showing us how she's using modern technology to colorize black and white or sepia film, as you can see there, and a superb view of her father-in-law, Neville, and his sister, as they were in their childhood in Providence Row, and the colour brings them to life. We do notice there are problems in the fact that she has two different colours for the different sleeves, but it's a very exciting development, so thanks, Marie. We are looking at women because we have felt we've perhaps neglected in the past, especially in stories about World War I. We've done the men, we've done the nurses at Mitten, but now Sam Edel is focusing upon the widows of the men who were lost. And this is his first essay based upon that wonderful wooden cross which is displayed in the Abbey, and we knew very little about it. So he's written about the man who died, and of course his widow and her subsequent life, which is something we need to know about. We also had a member saw this gravestone in the cemetery, and she was very interested because of the lady's obvious qualifications and also her youth, and wanted us to look at the connection between the two, which we have been able to do. And she would have been one of the first female barristers who defeated the male law society in a court case in the earlier 20th century. And she would be very famous today, except she married a local solicitor, Weldon Thompson, and she had one baby successfully, but during the birth of her second child, as often happened in those days, both the child and she died, which is very tragic. Her grandson, by her surviving daughter, has helped us write this article, and I hope you very much appreciate that. We met Mike Gilmore last year, who gave us a talk about his family, the Nunnies, and it's all about, very important, how the railways transformed a humble agricultural family into having a different way of life. And Mike, of course, now is an engineer, which is proof of the mobility caused by the railways. Sadly, this family lost its member on the railway. He was killed at Ashchurch in 1906, I think, and another one was killed in the First World War. But it's a very interesting insight into how the railways changed our society. We have an extra Zoom for you on the 24th of February, which you'll hear about because at the last Zoom, which was on 27th of January, we ran out of time, for which we apologise. But Derek Hall was having problems with his computer, and so he realised we were getting tired, and so he offered not to give his talk, which I thought was sad because he'd done all the preparation. So since that meeting, I've met with Derek, and I think we've solved the problems, and we're going to present his talk at 7:30 on the 24th of February, which we hope you will join us. What is interesting, going to meet Derek, I learned an awful lot, because he would say he lives in Corse, the village of Staunton, and Sniggs End, which is the Chartist settlement, which is famous to our area. And he didn't write that first book, but he's written this book and the second volume about the life of Staunton, which does feature the Chartist ceremony. So it's been a really good meeting him. and we hope you will join us on the 24th to hear his very interesting interpretation of quirky road signs, which is something that particularly interests him. We do have refreshments tonight after the talk with Anne and Sue, for whom we're very grateful, and we would also like you, of course, to buy the bulletins 29, 30 and 31, and Jane and Malachi will be selling them all at £8 each. Next meeting will be on the 24th of March. You see, Kirsty Bingham is the assistant of Simon Lawton at the John Moore Museum, and she's going to come and talk to us about this fascinating aspect of education. She has very kindly taken the place of Andy Moore, the dendrology man, who was due to visit, but he had to withdraw at short notice. So Kirsty will entertain us that evening and educate us that evening. And that brings us to Simon to talk about the restoring of Tewkesbury's past. Simon trained at Leicester University, which is a well-known university for local education, local history, and then he went to study for his MA at Worcester, and he became the curator of the John Moore Museum in 1993. The John Moore Museum is part of this restored medieval buildings, but he also superintends the little museum next door but one, which shows you how people lived in those buildings in the medieval period. And since then, they've taken over the lease of the Baptist Chapel in Church Street, the old Baptist Chapel in Church Street, which we can now visit thanks to the John Moore Museum. So it's well timed that Simon came to tell us about this very important development in Tewkesbury, which modernised Tewkesbury but preserved its medieval past. So thank you very much, Simon, and we look very forward much to your talk, which I can now tell you was superb. We really enjoyed it. Thank you.